All right, well, good afternoon, and thanks for everybody. What an exciting day for NDSU, the women's basketball program, as we welcome Jory Collins as our next head women's basketball coach, and welcome his family, his wife Casey, and their two sons, Jude and Jet. Welcome. It's great to have you guys here, and this is just the beginning. We're really excited to have you all here, but you can tell how important women's basketball is just by the turnout here from the media and the people in the background. So certainly an important day. But before I formally introduce Jory, there's a lot of thank yous. A lot of people were involved in this process. If you ask Jory, he'll tell you the amount of people that he met on campus because women's basketball is important here. And there's a lot of people who are very vested in this program throughout our long history. So I want to thank our staff. They played a huge role in this hire. In particular, Todd Phelps and Colleen Heimstead really leaned on them a lot. They both have college basketball background, and so their insight throughout this whole process was really important. Our search committee, led by Colleen, but Scott Walken, Scott's been here 25 plus years. Jen Lopez, great volleyball student athlete, current volleyball head coach, and Jane Gus, probably one of our most decorated women's basketball players in our history. So if those four don't know what it means to be successful in NDSU, I don't know who is. So I really appreciate all their insight, their thoughts, their feedback during this process. Former players, we're fortunate that we have an incredibly passionate alumni base here in women's basketball, and I probably met with, spoke to, and emailed many of them. And again, I think the consistent theme of just their excitement, what can they do to support, really excited about the future, and what their can role be. So we're going to lean on them a lot as Jory gets up and running. And but it's a great network, both here in Fargo, in the region, and beyond. And so really appreciative to have such a supported group. And the current team, a lot of them are here today. It looks like fresh off a practice, but I want to thank you, ladies. I know it's been a long 6 weeks, and we talked a lot about, we probably met 3 or 4 times, and change is hard. But the way you all have attacked this and embraced it, and I think we've talked a lot about where the future is headed. And I appreciate you all being here and being part of the process, and I'm looking forward to you all growing under Coach Collins' watch. I've said it before, I firmly believe this is a good Division I women's basketball job. And I think by the depth of the applicant pool that we had and ultimately our selection and our hire, I think speaks to that. When you talk about resources and facilities and the community and fan base, which, the people that I've talked to, they're hungry for women's basketball to get back to where it was over 15 years ago. And so it certainly showed true. But we were very deliberate with this process. It took probably 6-7 weeks. We needed to get this right for a lot of reasons, but most particular for the 8 women in the back of the room there. We needed to get this right. As with any hire at NDSU, we start with character and integrity and somebody who genuinely wants to be at NDSU. And in Jory Collins, we got all of that. We also got a coach with over 13 years of college coaching experience, both at Division I and Division II levels. If you get a chance to meet with them really quickly, it doesn't take long to see the passion and the determination, and more importantly, his desire to win. And that's important here. We got to get back to winning basketball games here at NDSU. He has a proven formula to build and sustain a program. And most importantly, and we spent a lot of time on this, he understands why he's here. He's here because of the young women in the program and making sure they have an incredible experience here at NDSU. I, for one, am excited about the new era of Bison women's basketball under his leadership. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Jory Collins as the 11th head women's basketball coach at North Dakota State University. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. First, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I know we have some alumni here and obviously our current players. It's great to see all of you out there. I'm really, really honored to be the next head women's basketball coach at North Dakota State. This is a place that I've known about for a very long time. Coaches in the coaching profession talk. They talk about what are good jobs and what might not be the best jobs. And this is a job that's always been talked about as a place that has done well, obviously, in the past, and it is a place where you can succeed and put high-performing teams out on the floor. As I got into the process and meeting with Matt and Todd and Colleen, it became very, very evident that the support for the student athletes here was first class all the way. The way that they support them academically, athletically, you can see the facilities that have been built here, but even staff behind all that, it's run in a first class manner. There's not any major hurdles here that it appears to be to have a successful team. And so it's going to be our goal to get this thing going in the right direction as fast as possible. And I think we have the things in place here to do that. I'm very well aware of the tradition here. Being a longtime Division II head coach, well aware of what North Dakota State did in the 90s, how dominant the program was for a period of time. Understand very well the fan base and what that means to people in the community and how that can affect your community and the kind of things that can do to build camaraderie between the university and just people that live here. I've got to be a part of that at Emporia State University. And that's something that I was looking for in a move for me as a head coach. I wanted to have some similar things that were important to me. And this place really just checked all the boxes as far as being a destination job for me. I probably met with, like he said, like Matt said, I think I met with 15 people in the interview process. And not just met, but sat down with and got to spend significant time with. That doesn't happen at a lot of other places where you're interviewing for jobs. Sometimes it's one person. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 people. And just that told me that it mattered to everybody, that the athletic department as a whole was together. Everybody's opinion mattered. And that's an environment that creates success and that you want to be a part of. So obviously I need to thank Matt and Todd and Colleen for their just the way that they communicated with me and told me what they were looking for. The interaction back and forth I thought was very smooth on my end. They were easy to talk to. Every person that I met with here spoke very, very highly about the leadership in the athletic department and just the way it's ran. Very easy to see yourself being there and having the opportunity to be successful in it. I also need to thank a couple people that I've worked for before. Coach Brandon Schneider at Kansas gave me my first opportunity to get into college coaching when I was really young college student in 2000, 2001. Kept giving me responsibilities and that allowed me to get a head coaching job 10 years later. Just very, very important to me. Huge mentor and a great friend. Kent Weiser, the athletic director at Emporia State University, for hiring me off a national championship, a guy with no head coaching experience, and trusting me with the caliber of program that we were able to have there. Meant a lot to me. And then obviously my family here, my wife Casey, being all the coaches in here will tell you what that's like, being a coach's wife and the good times and the hard times and the travel and all those kind of things. She's an absolute special person. Everybody in here needs to get to know her because you'll find somebody that you really want to be around. And my 2 boys, as ornery as they are, huge motivation for me. Being a good role model for them is probably job number 1 in my life, and I feel like I'm off to a good start because they're pretty good kids. As far as, North Dakota State women's basketball, something that's going to be really important to me, I want our program and our team to be somewhat of a reflection of the city of Fargo and the kind of people that live here. I'm very, very proud to be a Midwestern guy. I love the upper Midwest. I love the work ethic, the blue-collarness that comes with that, the toughness that comes with that. You can't get through these winters and not be tough up here. That's an environment that fits my personality really, really well, and a big reason why I was very, very interested in this job. So we're going to try to put a team out on the floor that, number one, plays with a relentless effort, that is plays as hard as any team you've seen play here, hopefully in a really long time. Just sheer guts and effort. We're going to be really, really tough, and we're going to add some consistency to what we do that you're going to be able to see night in and night out. And you're going to see the growth, and it's going to happen quick because we're going to zero in on a few things we're going to get good at, and those things are going to start steamrolling. And pretty soon we're going to get to a level where we can compete at the top of the Summit League and then hopefully beyond that. I got to meet the girls for a short time yesterday morning. I know without getting to spend a ton of time with them that they are hungry to get this thing going in the direction that we all want it to go. And I can't wait. June is a long time from now before we get on the floor together. But I will be marking off the days until we can get in the gym and start getting to know each other that way. And for that, we'll take some questions.
Matt or Jory.
Jory, obviously, you look at the record and some of the ups and downs that have gone on with this program. What makes you so confident? What do you think kind of sold Matt and the team on what you would be able to bring to this program? It's a tough.
Well, no question. I don't think they've had a winning record here in women's basketball since 9-10, and that's got to change. What I just mentioned, we're going to bring consistency to our approach. Fundamental basketball always wins. And when it doesn't win, you have a chance to win. We're going to get good at things that happen often in the game, rebounding, transition defense, those things that are areas of the game where you can win or lose by a lot. We're going to shore up some fundamentals and parts of the game that we have control of. A lot of things aren't talent-based. There's a lot of things that are effort, and you decided that you're going to do those things. We're going to make a concerted effort in some of those areas, especially here early on, things that we have control over. We're going to take control of those things and be able to have some consistency game to game where we can turn those into some wins.
You mentioned a couple times that you think that this turnaround is going to happen quick, or you're going to make sure it happens quickly. Do you have a couple of benchmark ideas for, first year, second year, third year, et cetera?
No, I would never put a number out there. And when I say we want it, that's what we want to happen. Obviously, change is something. When you're going to change a culture, when you need people to change the way they think, that's something that does take time. But also when you emphasize it every day, you are what you emphasize. And there's certain things we're going to emphasize in our program, the level of detail that I hope to instill in our players, and the commitment to those things, to certain standards that we're going to hold them to every day. Those things start to, when everybody starts to get that, then you have a chance. You have a chance for things to happen quickly. And it'll be up to them. And it'll be up to me to, coaching's a lot more. It's not really about what you know. It's what you can get your players to do. And so the sooner we get on the same page, the faster that's going to happen.
Recruiting is always the biggest thing. How well do you know this part of the world? There seems to be quite a bit of pretty good women's basketball players around this three-state area. How well do you know this area?
We've recruited a lot of players from Iowa in my day, from Nebraska. I'm not going to tell you we've brought any North Dakota kids. We've had a South Dakota player in my time. We've had some Minnesota players in my time. It's not an area that we spent tons of time in because there is so many schools up here. Obviously, when I was at Division II, you got the Northern Suns, a great conference, a lot of good schools up there. But the Twin Cities put out talent. 3.5 hours away. We're going to start regionally. Any North Dakota young lady that can help us win games, we are going to give 100% effort to get her to come be a Bison. And then we're going to move out from there. But recruiting's a relationship business. Casey can tell you I haven't been off the phone for probably the last 72 hours if I wasn't sleeping. And there's been a lot of people that have already reached out that want to help, that want to talk to you about players in the area. And so we're going to start there.
You have a certain style that you like to play?
Winning style. That will be a style we hope to put in. A lot of that's going to be determined on our players. When we're able to get in the gym, I've watched them on film a bunch. I told them that yesterday. I feel like I know them a little bit. Watched them individually. I've watched them in some team settings and some games. I don't believe for 1 second that the cupboard is bare. But style of play is going to be a lot more determined by when we get in the gym together and we can really start talking about some details and how fast people are picking up things. To be honest with you, if we got to play slow and grind it out to get a win, then that's what we'll do to start. If we need to play with our hair on fire and get a little reckless, then we'll play that way, if that's the way that we feel like is going to win a game. I mean, I could sit up here and tell you my ideal way to play, but that very, very rarely happens, and I'm not going to do what everybody does and say we're going to play fast and run and gun and do all that kind of stuff. So that'll be determined by what we're capable of doing on the floor.
You mentioned a couple of times the clear passion and excitement that you've seen, obviously, for women's basketball in this area. Attendance has been an issue as of late. How do you go about changing that and kind of inviting everybody back, getting them excited? How do you plan on going about that?
Well, we've talked a lot about that, and that's really, really important to me. Again, going back to where I've coached before, women's basketball was a regularly attended event, top 5 in attendance in Division II every year for the last 20 years. Because there's a consistent product out there. The people that are coming know what they're going to see, and they're going to see a great show. As soon as we're going to ask people to come, and then it's going to be our responsibility to put on a good performance. Again, we want to be a reflection of those guys. I want people that sit in the stands to be able to see themselves in our players. Hey, these guys play really hard. These guys are getting on the floor. I like that, and want to come back. And so that's our responsibility to win some games, to create some excitement, to ignite the fan base, and that'll be a goal early on.
The men's program has made the NCAA tournament 3 of the last 6 years. Have you been able to talk with Dave Richmond about what it takes to get a winning program in this area?
I haven't. I've got to speak briefly with Dave a couple different times, but we haven't got a chance to sit down. We talked about doing that next week when he gets back, and I would love to pick his brain. I followed them when this began and followed their run to the NCAA tournament. It was terrific.
So, Jory, last time you took over a national champion, which was, 2010. This is a little different. You're curious to see how much different this job is and taking this one compared to the Emporia as head coach?
Yeah, some people have asked, you've never had to turn a program around and what that's going to be like. And, my response has been, well, it's also, it's also a lot of pressure taking over a national championship team. You go 3-3 to start the year. In some places, everybody's clapping for you. In other places, that's unacceptable. So I'm going to do what I've always done. I'm going to try to get to know our players really, really well, find out what makes them tick, and we're going to become a team together, and we're going to go out on the floor, and we're going to play as hard as we can play. I think I haven't got a chance to tell them yet. But my 3 biggest, if you're on time and you give your best effort and you don't embarrass us, if we don't win, then it's my fault. Because if you give your best effort and you do all those things and we're not winning, then we probably shouldn't have recruited you. So it's really, really simple for me in that regard.
Your thoughts on the Summit League?
It's a great league. Very familiar with several of the coaches in some of the southern schools. Have scrimmaged and played against some of those coaches over the years. Have a ton of respect for those guys. It's a very fundamental league. Lots of skilled players with size. A lot of 6'2" kids that can dribble, pass, and shoot, which is a little bit different. So it'll be a great challenge. Teams that are like that are great executing teams, can run a lot of stuff offensively. You have to be really good on the defensive end to be able to contain some of those guys that can put 5 people out there that can play on the perimeter and do some of the things the schools here can.
Coach, you said you've been on the phone a whole bunch, even just within the last 72 hours. Have you been working on players to get onto this year's team, or is it just kind of?
Yeah. It's late. It's really late. But there's always opportunities. You get leads on players. and you got to follow those up, and you got to follow them as far as they take you. We definitely, I mean, currently we have 11, and we'd sure like to get another 1 or 2 here, signed here late. So we'll work on that. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, then we'll get busy on the 20 class.
Jory, do you feel like you would have been ready for this position a year ago, or how much did that time at Kansas going to be an assistant at a Division I program like that? How much did that help as far as getting prepared for this?
I think, yeah, I would have been prepared. I'm a lot more confident now after being at Kansas at seeing what that level is like. There's things you could say that are very, very different, but really all it did was really reaffirm some things that I already believe, that I know. Basketball is basketball. Those players at that highest level at the Big 12 are bigger and faster and stronger. Wouldn't tell you that they're better basketball players in general than at any other level. And quite honestly, the mid-major kids and some high-level D2 kids are as skilled as anybody in the country. They're just not always 6'2" and run like a deer, Now, at the top level of that BCS, those kids are super talented, but that's a very, very small percentage. Being at Kansas last year and just seeing how that level is organized was an eye-opener, something obviously you don't experience at Division II with 1 assistant and 1 GA. Having a full staff and how that's all orchestrated was terrific in getting me ready to be here and knowing what I want to do with our people.
Thank you.